Whether the team is performing clean or unsightly, we'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, upon further review of the defensive film versus Pittsburgh, as we put a bow on what was an epic win on Monday night, 23-17 over the previously undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers, the defense was really good. Now, we got a ton of help from the Steelers. Make no mistake about it. And I know a lot of you complained about this team not getting enough respect from the pundits around the different networks. And they talked about how the Steelers didn't execute and didn't give us any credit for what we did. Now, again, I'm not looking or searching for any of that credit. They can say what they want to say. There is some facts involved in some of the things that are being said. Like the Steelers didn't execute, like the Steelers dropped passes, like the Steelers missed opportunities, because they did. You cannot omit that. Let's not act as if those things didn't take place. Guess what? I don't care about the fact that they dropped 8 passes in the game. I don't care that Ben Roethlisberger had an open receiver on 4th and 1 and didn't convert. I don't care that early in the game Ben Roethlisberger had an open Juju Smith-Schuster, hit him right between the 1 and the 9, and he dropped the football on the 3rd and 15, and they had to punt. That's not my problem, okay? And I thank the Steelers, again, for their contribution in the 23-17 win, okay? So it's not like we weren't gracious in thanking them for all that they did to help us get the dub. That being said, I am unapologetic for what took place. We helped create an environment that led to a 23-17 victory. We helped create that environment. And in this league, you make your breaks, you take advantage of the breaks that you do make, and luck is something that you create. You put yourself in a position to where if something bounces your way, you can take advantage of it, and we did. So I thought it was a strong defensive performance. And there were some opportunities there for the Steelers to take advantage of, and they didn't. Not our problem, okay? I just know when the opportunities did present themselves for us to shine, we did. You know, there were a couple of moments, some lowlights. You know, the James Washington touchdown, that's disappointing. You know, that's too easy. Not after you fought for 5 straight plays from the 1. To give that up on the very next defensive snap, that's disheartening. Okay? You know, and so there were some things in there. There were some 3rd and longs that the Steelers converted in this game. Makes you sick to your stomach. This defense is too good to give that up. But you could tell they weren't really comfortable blitzing Ben Roethlisberger. They didn't want to blitz him very often. They wanted to drop 7 into coverage, and they wanted to make the Steelers beat them. And I think that was the right way to go about it, because as you saw last night, or on Monday night rather, there were some missed tackles. And if you blitz 6 and you only got 5 back in coverage and a guy misses a tackle, it could be off to the races. And you don't want to put yourself in that position. Make them earn it. Make them matriculate the ball down the field. And outside of that one James Washington 50-yard touchdown where he breaks 2 tackles, they earned everything they got in the game. There were no cheap yards. There were no easy gimmies. They had to work. One of their touchdown drives, 15 plays. Like, they had to earn everything they got in the game. And that's what you want. We still have an issue with the big plays. Obviously, every game just about, you can pencil us in for a 30, 40, or 50-yard plus play given up. Just go ahead and write it in. It's maddening that we can't get that under control for whatever reason, but it happens to us every week. Doesn't matter who the opponent is, we're going to give up a big play at some point, whether it's a pass interference or it's a deep ball, or it's a catch and run with a missed tackle. It's a big run that pops out for some reason. Haven't had that happen in the last 3 weeks, but if it's going to happen, this is the kind of week that it would happen against a 49ers team that can run the football. So every week it just seems like we have an issue with limiting big plays for whatever reason. It's frustrating because it just continues to happen against us. And so gave up the 50-yarder, but all in all, I thought it was a strong defensive performance. I'll give you a quick number of standouts for me personally in the game. I thought that Deron Payne was exceptional, had some batted balls, some big plays on some runs when the Steelers did try to run it. The one that comes to mind, a third down where they decided they wanted to try to trick us with a little draw. Deron not having it, okay? I thought, the best defender on the field for us was Montez Sweat. And we've talked about that ad nauseum, so that's not something that you didn't already know. I thought somebody who had an extremely strong game, and it was so good to see him back out there, was DeShazer Everett. I thought Shays was magnificent. Honestly speaking, he missed the one tackle on the James Washington touchdown. That was egregious. So you can't gush over him, but my God, to me, honestly speaking, second best defensive performance of the game was DeShazer Everett. He was everywhere, and he had to be everywhere because of some of the situations that the defense called for and the plays that were executed by the Steelers. He had to make plays, and he did every single time for the most part. So I thought his presence was felt back in the lineup in Week 13, and he was massive. I thought that some other guys stepped up and played well. Jonathan Allen, Chase Young, obviously along that defensive line. Thought the entire defensive line was exceptional. I thought the linebackers actually weren't half bad. Now, John Bostic wasn't bad in this game. He wasn't bad. I thought Cole Holcomb was exceptional in this game. If I'm ranking defensive performances, it goes Montez Sweat 1, Shays 2, 3 for me is Cole Holcomb. He was that good in this game, was Cole Holcomb. So a lot of really good individual efforts. Collectively as a group, the defense was strong, and they gave us a shot to win. And big play after big play, big stand after big stand. This defense rose to the occasion. There are a number of times where this defense could have given in. And earlier in the season, maybe they would have. And this game wouldn't have been close. The goal line stand, you could look at it one of two ways. You could say, hey, the goal line stand was awesome, but you give it up the very next play that you're on the field, 50-yard touchdown. So what difference does it make? But who knows? Maybe they score that touchdown and still get the 50-yard catch and run from, Washington or somebody else on the field. And instead of it being 14, it's 21. That's a massive goal line stand by this defense. The 4th and 1, the 3rd and 1, late in the game when it's tied at 17. These are big plays by the defense. They were outstanding. When we needed them to step up, they stepped up in this game. And also, it helped that the Steelers didn't have their field goal kicker. There were a lot of factors as to why we got the win. Again, it's all built in to an NFL game. Injuries happen, mistakes happen, drop passes, missed assignments. All of those things happen. We had them too. We dropped passes. We had a guy blow an assignment on a 4th and 1 and allow a defender in there to make a 2-yard loss tackle that gave the Steelers great field position, and the defense had to come on the field and get the stop. We battled through some of the same issues that they did. We just found ways to make plays in winning time, and they didn't. They had a 3rd and 1. They had a 4th and 1. We got stops. They didn't kick a field goal because their field goal kicker was out, so they had to go for it. We got back. We got down there. We made a one-handed catch on a 3rd down, and we made the plays that when it was winning time, plays had to be made. We made them. The batted ball picked by John Bostic, batted ball by Sweat, interception by Bostic, winning time. Play needed to be made. Defense made it. And for that, I say, hell of a job, fellas. Hell of a job. So we go from there to putting a bow on that Steelers victory to now turning our attention to San Francisco. And it's a quick turnaround. It's Thursday. We haven't really had any talk about injuries or where we are. And we still don't really have a lot of that information. Everything's kind of moving slowly because of the short week. The reason why this video is out so late is because it took the Washington media team a long time to update the site to put up the Ron Rivera interview, the Scott Turner. I didn't want to do the show until I could actually listen to these guys speak. They put all the player interviews up well in advance of the coaches' interviews, but that's the ones that I was most interested in. Was I want to hear what these guys have to say, and they didn't get up there until later on. So, obviously there's Thursday Night Football, so there was a lot of moving parts. So that's part of the reason why this video is out so late. But We did hear from Rivera. We did hear from Scott Turner, as we usually would on a Wednesday. Now, because of the short week and condensed, it's Thursday instead. So, like I told you yesterday, I think we're going to hear from Rivera and Turner today, and then Rivera and Del Rio tomorrow, and that'll be it. So, before we get into any of that, I do want to give you guys an update on AGG, our rookie wide receiver out of Liberty. He's practicing. He was a full participant today. He's on the scout team. Rivera kills me with the show team. He almost had me calling it the dang on show team. It's the scout team, okay? That's what everybody else knows it as, not the damn show team. And so he's practicing with the scout team right now. Rivera says he looks so good out there. But they said they want to get him back up to speed on the offense and what they're doing. They want to get his football legs back under him. Translation, I don't think he's going to be activated this week. Doesn't sound, and Rivera said, and it being a short week doesn't help, but he looks really good. The biggest thing after winning, and if you're asking me about individual battles within, this season and things that I'm looking for down the stretch, one of the biggest things left on my checklist of things I want to see from this team down the stretch. Let's put aside winning the division and all of that stuff. Obviously, those things supersede everything else. I'm talking about individual. Those are team goals. Those are things that I want to see the team achieve. I'm talking about individual things. One of the biggest individual goals I have for the team is getting Antonio Gandy Golden involved down the stretch of this season. He has been an absolute non-factor this season. We have no idea what this guy is capable of. We keep talking about needing a number 2 wide receiver as if we didn't draft a receiver last year. This guy could be a number 2 wide receiver for all we know. We don't know what we have in him yet. He's got 1 catch on the season. Think about that. Let that resonate. Let that sink in. 1 catch. This guy is super talented. Okay? I wanted him out of Liberty. I was excited when we got him. Go watch the video when we drafted him. I was excited. I think I might have even been live with you guys on at the time of the selection. Whatever the case may be, I was elated because this guy can play. And I think there's something there to him. I just want to see him get out there and get more involved. And so my biggest individual goal for the remainder of this season is to get Antonio Gandy Golden going. Similar to the way we've seen Cam Sims emerge, I want to see the same thing for Antonio Gandy Golden down the stretch. So I would love to have him come back next week against Seattle. I don't think he's going to be activated off of the IR this week. I think that's something they'll save for next week because, again, if you activate him, that means somebody else has got to be deactivated off of the roster, pretty much released essentially, and then re-signed onto the practice squad. You don't want to do that because I don't think he's going to be able to contribute this week. So I'm going to assume they've got 3 weeks before they have to make a decision on him. Sounds like if there are no setbacks with him, he should be activated next week and ready to go against Seattle, and they'll try to slowly work him back into the offense and reintegrate him. I really want to see some strides taken from him because, again, we keep talking about we need receiver. And maybe he's not the guy, the number 2. Maybe he's a great third option in this offense. Who knows? I just want to know what we have because we haven't seen anything out of him. So got an update there. More likely than not, he will be activated next week. Don't anticipate him being back this week, which is perfectly fine by me. And just one more side note on Antonio Gibson. Obviously didn't practice today. Ron Rivera said they will evaluate him tomorrow. He's not playing this week. Okay. Ron, he does these things where he kind of leaves out. And look, as a coach, you leave the door open. You don't want to give. Ron is big on not giving away any competitive advantages. He's not playing. We all know that. San Francisco knows that. We know that. They know that. Everyone knows he's not playing this week. The real question is, can he play next week against Seattle? I don't think he's going to play next week either. My target date for him coming back is against Carolina the following week after that. So 3 weeks out essentially. But everybody's injuries are different. Everyone heals differently. They said, Ron said all the right things. He's responding well to treatment. That's the same thing he said about Jaren Christian, and we haven't seen Jaren Christian in like 2 months. So when Ron talks about injuries, it goes in one ear, out the other ear. Practice is going to be the key. When he comes back, and if he's able to string together a series of practice days in a row, that's when we'll know Antonio Gibson is close to returning. I don't see that being for at least a minimum of 2 weeks from now. So we'll see what happens there. But from an injury standpoint, again, the website wasn't really updated. So I'll just give it to you verbally. No practice for, as I mentioned, the aforementioned Antonio Gibson and tackle David Sharp. Both of them non-participants in practice today. Limited in practice, both Morgan Moses and Brandon Sheriff. So the entire right side of the offensive line were limited. Morgan Moses with a groin, which he's been nursing the last 3 weeks or so, and Brandon Sheriff with the calf. So I was wrong about the injury. I thought it was a hyperextension of the knee. It was actually a calf injury that he was able to battle through, come back in the game and play. Limited in practice today. I have no doubts in my mind, barring any kind of re-aggravation or anything of the sort, those guys are going to be ready to go on Sunday versus the 49ers. And then full participants, Ryan Anderson and Terry McLaurin. So really, we're still really good. I was glad to see Cameron Curl not be on the injury report. Remember, he went down and ultimately came back into the game. So I thought that this was going to be a longer list of injuries because we had a few guys leave the game, but most of them, with the exception of Antonio Gibson, were able to come back into the game. So the damage was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And so we are still relatively healthy, knock on wood. And hopefully it stays, or I'll knock on this over here. Hopefully it stays that way. But listening to those guys talk at the podium, Rivera talked about wanting to keep the focus on the 49ers. He gathered the team before practice, and he had a talk with them about, all right, that was a big win. It was an emotional win, but we got to put that aside, and we got to focus on the task at hand. And he said John Madden told him, you can't pick up where you left off at when you get a big win. You got to wipe the surface and slate clean, and you got to start anew because you need them to be able to focus on the granular details. And so that's what Ron tried to hammer home, is that, look, that was a big win and it was great, but now we got to move on. We haven't done anything. We haven't accomplished anything yet. We're 5-7. We're fighting for a division. That game didn't win us the division. That game just helped us stay in a position to try to win the division. So he's drilling the players and trying to keep them focused. Remember, it's a young team, and so you got to make sure that they understand that that was a big win, but we got a lot more football to play, and I think we got enough veterans on the team to go along with Coach Rivera and Jack Del Rio and company that are going to keep these guys focused on the task at hand. So that was good to hear from Coach Rivera. As I mentioned already, he talked about AGG and how good he looked at practice, but again, doesn't sound like he's going to be returning this week. And so, Rivera sounded like he was in good spirits about where this team is. He talked about Brandon Sheriff. It sounds like Brandon Sheriff's going to be back, guys, and I'm happy about that. I want Sheriff back. I want Jonathan Allen back. I think those guys, a lot of things that we don't talk about is the impact in the locker room. Jonathan Allen is a locker room guy, but what I'm hearing from people more and more, like listening to Alex Smith say, Alex Smith is well-traveled, been to San Francisco, been to Kansas City, been here, been in the locker room with a number of different guys. He didn't have to say what he said. Like he didn't have to say Brandon Sheriff's one of the best teammates I've ever had. He said when he leaves the huddle, his presence, it's missing. And when he comes back, you can feel it. His energy is infectious. Like when you hear that and when you listen and when I watch Brandon Sheriff interact with other guys and when I listen to him talk, because you don't think of Brandon Sheriff being a funny guy and, this guy that is full of energy. But when you listen to him talk, you see that he's an energetic guy. He's funny. He's got a sense of humor, and him and Morgan Moses, to me, are two of the bigger leaders in the locker room, and guys gravitate towards them. I want Sheriff back. A long story short, and it sounds like Rivera and Scott Turner spoke briefly about him as well. Sounds like they understand the value of a Brandon Sheriff, and I think this is a guy that is going to continue to continue to be a Washington football team member for many years to come. Hopefully that gets done this offseason. Again, Sheriff playing under the franchise tag this year. Something's got to be done. I don't think they're going to franchise tag him again in 2021. Remember, the cap is supposed to shrink, so we'll see what happens. But I think Sheriff is on one of the items on the priority list pretty high for the offseason. You get to Scott Turner. He talked about getting into a rhythm, play calling wise. He talked about having to adjust with no Antonio Gibson, and you could see that. There was a plan for Antonio in the game, and he gets injured early, and you have to kind of readjust and reassess everything on the fly. But he talked about Alex making smart decisions with the football, them trying, the Steelers making a concerted effort to take Terry away. And he said, yeah, we almost still got Terry on a couple of, opportunities that we just missed. But, it was good to see other guys step up. There was a huge emphasis in his Zoom conference call about, the development of Logan Thomas and what he's meant to this offense. And, we see the growth in Logan. We see what he's been able to do. But it's really refreshing to see that they were right, because a lot of us, including myself, and I can't really speak for you out there, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to speak for me. I didn't think we were going to get anything out of the tight end position this year, and I wasn't huge on Logan Thomas. There's some of you out there that says, man, this guy's a beast, and you just got to see this guy's going to be something, Louie T. You just got to give him a chance. And I was like, look, I'm willing to give him a chance. I just don't see it, And they did. They had the foresight to see what Logan Thomas could be. And it's paying off huge dividends for them right now. Same could be said with J.D. McKissick, but I knew about J.D. McKissick. I knew what he was all about. And I told you, I was excited. That was the signee that I was most excited about in the offseason, and they've been proven right. And he pretty much said, look, with the injury to Antonio, we're not really looking to change anything. If anything, Peyton's going to have a bigger load to carry, and so is J.D. He said, and J.D.'s already doing a lot. But we're going to have to expand his role a little bit more, meaning he's probably going to have to tote the rock. JD's been more of a pass-catching back for us. Not many, rushes for him. Earlier in the season, he would get the ball a little bit more. There would be 8, maybe 9 carries for JD. We haven't seen JD really rush the football that much of late. He's been more of the pass-catching back, and Peyton Barber is taking more of the, running back duties along with Antonio Gibson. Well, it's really going to be a lot more Peyton Barber. They're confident in Peyton Barber. This is the thing. If you're really confident in Peyton Barber, throw him the football because he's open. I shouldn't say teams. The Steelers pretty much neglected him as a pass catcher. They just ignored him, and they didn't give him any respect out there on routes like they would have had it been Antonio Gibson. They just totally sagged off of him, double-teamed Terry, left him by himself, and Alex didn't even look his way. If you want teams to respect him as a pass threat, you got to throw him the football. And we'll see what happens moving forward. But he talked about their roles expanding. And he talked briefly about Javon Leake, said, look, he's got a skill set that kind of fits what we're looking for at the running back position. He's got some speed. He can catch the football. He's versatile, which these are all the things we knew about him coming out of Maryland. But I don't expect him to have a role. It sounds like he might be active. I doubt they try to go with just 2 backs. It sounds like he'll be active on Sunday, more likely than not. But again, I told you, I don't expect him to see the field. If everything goes the way that they plan, I don't think you'll see Javon Leake on the field. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So that's that on the coach speak front as we now get to our first look at the San Francisco 49ers. And I'll make this brief because we'll spend a lot of time on this tomorrow. But both of us come into the game at 5-7. So we're 2 evenly matched football teams. The 49ers have been decimated by injuries, and they're a team that's still fighting, and they're very talented, and you'd be foolish to underestimate them. This is a team fully capable of taking us out, and the thing that scares me is that their offense is still legit. They got playmakers. They got the ability to stretch the football field vertically with Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel's like another running back out there. He's physical, run after the catch. We didn't tackle all that well. A guy like Deebo Samuel doesn't bode well for a secondary that at times struggles to get guys on the ground. You look at their running back position, they come in waves. Nobody runs it better to me schematically than the San Francisco 49ers and Kyle Shanahan. And so that scares me because the run defense while it's been better of late, we haven't seen a team like this. And you could argue that the reason the run defense has been so dominant the last 3 weeks is because we haven't played a team that can run the football. The Cowboys are a shell of themselves running the football. The Bengals stink with no Joe Mixon, and we got a break there with no Mixon. And this game against the Steelers, they can't run the football. So as much as I want to be excited about what the run defense has done since Detroit, where they were awful, I can't get too excited about it because we haven't been tested. We're going to be tested on Sunday. This is the best rush offense we've probably seen since the Baltimore game, to be honest with you. We saw some really good rush offenses early in the season, really all in a row. Arizona can run it, especially with Murray using his legs. The Browns are one of the best in the league at running the football. The Ravens are one of the best in the league at running the football, and the Rams can run the football. So we saw a lot of really good rush offenses early in the season. We haven't really seen many of them of late. The Giants aren't a real rush threat, even though they ran it down our throats that second time that we played them. The Cowboys aren't a rush threat. We saw them 2 times in a span of 4 weeks or so. And the Bengals aren't a rush threat. The Lions aren't really that big of a rush threat, but they ran it down our throats when we saw them. So that's the last team that was able to have success. This 49ers team is very scary in that regard, and so that's something to keep in mind. Trent Williams spoke to the media. He talked about not having no ill will towards the organization, which it's bullshit, but that's what he's supposed to say. Look, the public enemy number one is no longer there, and that's the biggest thing. Is he did? And I said the same thing about Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan had an issue with Bruce Allen, all right, and I think he still has an issue with Daniel Snyder as well. But the big issue was Bruce Allen. That was everybody's public enemy number one, especially Trent Williams, and he's not there anymore. So Trent talked about having love for a lot of the guys in the locker room. Yeah, he does. Morgan Moses, we saw the IG post of the jersey that Morgan Moses sent, or I think it was the other way around. I think it was Morgan Moses sent to Trent Williams, a heartfelt message about how he's his big bro and he really appreciates everything that he's done for him, yada, yada, yada. So there's a lot of love for Trent Williams in that locker room, and so I don't think from that standpoint, no. And Trent says he still watches the team and follows them and he roots for them. And that may be true. And they asked him about would he want to be inducted into the Washington Ring of Fame. He said at first I really wanted it, but if it happens, I'll be there and I'll love it. If it doesn't, then it is what it is. Like, he's not really hung up on that. And, I think some of the fan base is still split. Probably a lot of people, can't stand him. Some others are like, yeah, Trent, we still love you. Wish you were here, that kind of thing. At the end of the day, he's going to want to beat us. Kyle Shanahan's going to want to beat us. Jordan Reed's going to want to beat us. So don't think for 1 second that those guys still don't have a little extra in it for us. They want to get us. So we're going to have to be on our P's and Q's, Y's and Z's during this game because they definitely want to get back at us. So it's not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. There are some things that I think we are going to be able to take advantage of, and we'll talk about some of those things. And then there's some things that I am definitely scared of going into this matchup that could be the difference in the game. But we'll have all of that for you tomorrow here on Washington Football Nightly. So with that said, look forward to chopping it up with you guys on Friday, where you'll get your keys to the game, and I'll give you my score and more, my prediction for the game, and I'll be looking for yours as well. So if you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. So when I go live, you will be there and active in the comment section. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys throughout the course of the weekend, and hopefully we're talking about a 4th straight win with this football team. We will see, but we'll talk about that tomorrow ad nauseum. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. See you tomorrow here on Washington Football Nightly. You guys have a good one. Take care.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30.